Hi, I'm Cash, and welcome back to Cash Talks Football, where today we're trying to cover a little bit of the pre-season. And it's pretty hard to cover, really, but I'm going to go over a little bit of this Chelsea Celtic game here for a couple of reasons, really. I want to show you, just if you have a little look, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the pre-season in a second, but I just want you to look at that group of players right there, and you can see, look, there's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's no real shape, structure to what they're trying to do. And I know this is early on in the game, but it doesn't matter. In pre-season, you are trying to do these good habits that will carry on through the rest of the season and actually make your team a little bit better from where they were last year. And when you're doing something like this, just all your players are in a bit of a bundle. And look, if you look at Celtic, there is a little bit of structure to what they're doing here. You can see 1, 2, 3, little defensive midfielder. You can see they're kind of almost trying to do the right thing. But from the Chelsea point of view, this is just awful. This is just a bunch of players running around on a field trying to do a thing. And when we talk about some of the goals that they actually end up conceding, this is a lot of the reason why. But we've got to put the caveat in, it is pre-season. And this is the problems I have with pre-season in the Premier League nowadays, is you don't have your full squad on roster because people are coming back from the Euros, they're going to the Olympics, there's all sorts of transfer problems, and Chelsea's got its own problems as well right now. But it's just not a good start for you. You have to have these foundations and these building blocks in your team. If you don't have those, all those little cracks just appear faster and faster as the season progresses because you don't have any time to reset in the Premier League, and you might get these international breaks, but again, half your players are gone, so you really don't have time to fix any of these little problems. So if you're starting off like this, it's not a good look. It's not a great starting point. So I'm not going to comment on all the goals like I normally do, but I'm just going to really try to highlight some of the main coaching points that you need to look for as the sort of pre-season progresses, coming up towards the opening days. I guarantee you, some of the things I'm going to point out now, I'll be pointing out when the season starts for Chelsea. We're just going to look at this little clip right here for a second, because the ball gets played in here, and he's completely and utterly unmarked. There's no one really close enough to put any pressure on him, or put any pressure on him there. Now, look, you can see this guy, he's caught between a rock and a hard place. He knows he needs to go and challenge him, but he can't because there's a player out wide there, and he's actually kind of doing the right thing. He's caught between those two players. Absolutely fine. But as you can see, there's nobody else close enough to do anything. And if you're... This guy ends up receiving the ball, by the way. I'm not going to play the whole clip where he ends up running in behind. But you can see, look, that no one's actually quite sure what to do. This is too much space here between these, well, I was going to say all centre-backs here, but from these defenders. And there's no effort here whatsoever. Everyone's walking. Again, everyone's going to say it's pre-season, but this is how you set up for the season. If you play this poorly in pre-season, and you put this little effort in, this is what you're going to carry on doing through the season. So it's very important that you try to get the little simple things right, the spacing between your centre-backs and your left and right backs. Having a player here completely and utterly unmarked, or not even getting close enough, isn't acceptable. Not at this, no, you just can't do it. Not if you're Chelsea Football Club. When this ball gets played, look, and he plays it back, this is what I want to show you. As it goes back here, there's no pressure on the ball here really again, because they haven't really got a shaping system where they can. Look, you can see this, they've got brilliant options here, anywhere to go. And all this guy ends up doing, he ends up playing the ball straight back to this little wee kiddie here. Let's just watch. There you go, goes straight back in. So it goes up, it goes back, and it goes up again. And you can see, okay, they finally started to squeeze the ball, but ultimately, look, you know that guy said he was doing a great job over here as left back, bump. Now he's not. He's getting caught out. The ball ends up going over here, and this guy ends up running in behind. All because they don't really have a shape and a system of where they're supposed to be pressuring the ball or how they're supposed to be dropping off when, there isn't pressure on in the midfield, which can happen, right? So when you don't have pressure in the midfield, you do defensively kind of want to drop off. So that ball in behind can't happen and you can't get caught out. They don't really have pressure on the ball in the midfield. And this guy here, bump, is playing him on side and keeping... not keeping that line or dropping that line off as fast as they need to be because there's no pressure in the midfield. And this is simple football stuff, and they're not doing it in pre-season. I mean, like if you're a lower level team, I'd say I would accept this for a championship side, let alone maybe a first division side. But this is a Premier League side. This is awful. I mean, it's awful. You can't be doing this, at this high of a level. And they do, and it's just terrible. And when the ball comes out here wide, and puts the ball in behind. Of course, there's no options for Chelsea to put pressure on the ball because, again, they don't really have their shape and system down. And it was their downfall last season. It's going to be their downfall this season, I believe, as well. But let's get on to a couple of highlights of the goals, because it highlights, again, some of the problems Chelsea have. Sorry, I just wanted to show you that little ball. The ball went straight back to the same guy again, and then this is when they're off to the races. And actually, there's ended up 2 Celtic players over here, completely and utterly unmarked, waiting for the ball to play in behind. Of course, this wouldn't have been a problem if their defensive line just had dropped a little bit and taken care of all that space in behind. Because remember, space is dangerous. The ball is not here. The space is. But there we go. So just like at the start of the video, we're pointing out how all of the Chelsea players were just in a big bundle with no shape or structure again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players. Now, this is where it's even worse, because this is where the ball is. So you've got no pressure on the ball again. You've overloaded the wrong side, because this is where all your defensive players are, but there's no real Celtic players to mark. And the ball, as again, more importantly, is completely got no pressure on it. Now, if you watch this space here, this is how football works. You see this space here? Okay, this is the space that they end up scoring the goal from. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that as this moves forward, right? So as we play this forward, bonk, that's the space. But here's what you've got to understand. That space there that is the pocket of space that Chelsea have given them. It moves to there as the line goes back. It's the same pocket of space, but as the defenders fall back, that space still stays the same, but it moves from here, donk, to here. And this is just unbelievable, because look, the amount of midfielders that are over here, or whoever these players are supposed to be, just aren't doing the job properly, because someone needs to be over here on this side of the field, and just nobody is. And Celtic end up with a couple of players completely and utterly free in the box. Now we can see the line has dropped, the ball's played into the middle here, bump, got all the space in the world, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about, that pocket of space that was up here, bump, 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 bump. Now it's starting to drop, now it's about here, bump, bump, because they've pushed this line back. And look, none of these players really know what they're doing. Here's the ball. Again, there's no pressure on the ball. Just one little simple pass, and it's side-footed into the goal. One little simple pass, bonk. There we go. Look at how much space this guy's got inside the 18-yard box, and he just gets to pass it into the goal. And the whole reason this has happened is because none of these players really know what they're doing. And when you're a new manager and you're coming in and you're trying to build a team and you're doing something, you've only got a couple of weeks when the players are going to be listening to you. And if you don't get it right in those first couple of weeks, they're going to stop listening to you. They're going to stop believing in what you do. They're going to stop believing in what you say. So it's very, very important you get it right from the off. And they're not getting this right from the off. They could have a really bad season. I know they did last season, but they could have a really bad season. You can't have this amount of space inside of the 18-yard box in a pre-season game. You just can't. Like just watching passes in, it's quite quality. There we go. You do sound effects, you do get double points in the Premier League. I heard it. So let's just move on to the next little clip. So you know when they didn't have pressure on the ball for that little clip I showed you when they passed the ball backwards and forwards, or pressure on the ball for the last one, and they're going to have the same problem again for this goal. And that's why I'm sort of highlighting these. As a coach, when it happens the first time, you're going, oh, I can't let that happen because I'm going to get punished. I can remember years ago I was talking to, I can't remember where we were. I was chatting to a chairman, and I go, oh, you're about to get scored on. And you go like, no, we're not. Yeah, you are, because your left back keeps making the same mistake and he just hasn't been punished yet. And within about 3 minutes, they'd scored on the left back doing the same thing, and the coach hadn't seen it and he hadn't fixed it. This is the same scenario. Chelsea are getting punished because they don't have pressure on the ball over here, and their midfield system isn't set up anywhere near correctly. So they got punished a minute ago, and now they're going to get punished again. So when this ball goes out here, bump, look, there's no pressure on the ball. This guy's got all the time in the world. Absolutely all the time in the world. Look, no one's trying to close him down. No one's trying to get out to him. Now, of course, this guy's caught between a little bit of a rock and a hard place because he should have midfield cover coming to help him. His midfield cover should enable him to do one of two things, right? He needs to be able to get towards the ball to try to make a challenge, and then that means the midfielder will cover the space in behind him. You don't really want your centre-backs to be doing that. You don't ever really want your centre-backs to be coming past the posts and getting dragged out here, because that causes problems. But here's the other point. Sometimes the centre-back has to go out there because the midfielders aren't doing their job. They're just nowhere near close enough. And you've got two runners here, and someone, actually technically three, this guy's kind of going with him, but these little simple balls in behind, and this is what ends up happening. He puts it into the space, and it comes across, and they just get a tapping on the back post. But it's because the midfielders aren't really coming in and doing their job down here. Now, I don't know. This is one of the other things that you don't really know when you're a coach, of what their roles and responsibilities are. They're trying to get the midfielders to do. But whatever they're doing, it's not working, because it's leaving their back four completely and utterly exposed at the moment. So when this ball comes off, dosh, off we go to the races, and look how many players there. Look, sorry, he's just run off the centre back here. Matey here has just gone to sleep, and he gets to tap the ball into the back of the net. It is easy. It shouldn't be this easy for Celtic. Just to play a ball out wide, play a ball across, play a ball in behind, then play a ball across. There should have been more pressure on the ball. That's just unacceptable, really. But I think it's going to get worse for Chelsea. I should have just showed you him tapping the ball into net box. Bosh, he doesn't get double points because he didn't use sound effects. Right, so here's another problem, because Chelsea are trying to build up out of the back, and their coach has made that very, very apparent. But it isn't a smart way to play. So when you're trying to transition from system to system, I need to explain this a little bit better. You can't just go, right, I want to pass out of the back, or I want to play tiki-taka Barcelona football. That isn't how it works in football. If you do that, you're going to get beaten. What you end up doing, what you want to do, is you want your goal, right? I'm going to pass out of the back. Then what you do is you set, okay, these are what players I've got. How close can I get to those two things? And I, make the other one get to my goal. I don't just go, right, I'm going to do this regardless. Because when you do, you get punished, and you will get beaten, and you will get fired. You just slowly try to transition to what you want to do with the players you've got, and replacing the ones that can't do it. Because if you do just try to pass the ball out of the back and no one is really ready for it, this is what ends up happening. Your goalkeeper right there should have launched that into row Z. He doesn't. He plays it into this guy here. He does have time, but he does make a terrible pass. If he gets a shout from this guy here, what he does is he just dinks it around the corner, and they're out, which would be perfect. Boomf, and out they go, because this is where the space is, and he just needs to tell him to do that, and there's no problem whatsoever. However, he doesn't do that. He plays a first-time ball straight to their striker. I mean, it's just, if this was, as I said, I've said this so many times, if this was my under-14s doing it, I wouldn't accept it. If this was any pro team I've been involved with, it wouldn't happen. I mean, you just don't do things like this. But when you get a mandate from your coach and you're trying to follow him, because you're trying to get into the starting 11 for the Premier League, you do silly things, and this is a silly thing. And if Chelsea keep doing this, they might get routed at the beginning of the season. But again, it's still pre-season. Let's have a look at one or two more games and see if the coach makes any sort of adjustments and actually starts to try to actually understand how to build a team properly. You can't just go, I want to do this regardless of all the consequences, because you know what, as we all know, the Premier League season is very punishing. But yeah, it's another goal. Let's see if I can find another point before we wrap this video up. I thought I'd show it from this angle as well, so you can have a little look at what the keeper's supposed to be looking at down the field. And he does have a couple of options. If he's smashing the ball, he's got an option about there. This guy, Brumph, actually, if he's really good, he can put a ball there, because you know what, this guy can now turn in, running behind. Because remember, the point of trying to pass the ball out of the back is to create more goal scoring opportunities. Bring their team in so you can go behind. However, if their team is coming in, you can just go behind, which he could do right there, and get themselves out of trouble. Playing it into here, though, the only option, if the goalkeeper plays it into this player here, the keeper has to really come and drop and make himself an option. So what I mean by that is, as the ball goes into this guy's feet, Bosh, the keeper has to sort of get away and be able to have another option to try to get out. But you can see how Celtic are making this really difficult for them to do anything. So you don't really want to be, look, 1v1 there, 1v1 there, 1v1 there, 1v1 there. They're making it very difficult for them to pass the ball and do what they want to do, because their coach is probably adjusted. So you have to try to do something a little bit different. I know it's pre-season again, and I know it's, stick to your guns, we'll be better. If we get this right, we'll be really good. But sometimes you have to give your players confidence, and you don't set them up for failure, because every time they make a little mistake, it compounds and it compounds and it compounds, and then they're forever making mistakes. And that's what ends up happening with this little goal here. Last little point here, before I wrap up this video, I just want to show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players on the run, 1, 2 centre-backs, neither of them paying any attention to the striker. He ends up running through and scoring. So the last little point I'm going to make. But the fact that they're so far away, again, There's no real pressure on the ball again, and it's the same little problems. If it's different problems, you're going, oh, okay, because you can highlight, fix that little thing or that little thing. But when you keep having the same fundamental problem, you're going to have a massive problem through the season. And it's going to be worrying. I'm going to pay attention to Chelsea's next game. I might even watch it just to see if they're changing anything before the season starts. But they've got a lot of work to do. Other than that, I'll catch you next time on Cash Talks Football.